Hello, lovely writers. Welcome to another Writerly Wednesday. And today I wanted to talk about something that has been coming up again in my social media feed and in my, sphere of influence. And that's all around writerly persistence and perseverance. Recently, I read an article by a beautiful friend of mine who took the opposite stance to me, which is to say, if you followed me for a little while, you may have seen my meme, which says something like the 3 characteristics of all successful writers are perseverance, perseverance, and perseverance. And in her article, which triggered me, she said it isn't that easy, and sometimes you do need to let something go, that dream go. But she did recognize that sometimes persistence was the thing that's needed. Of course, I believe that persistence is always the thing that is needed. However, because of her article, I wanted to give you this caveat. When I am talking about perseverance or persistence, I don't share it as a sort of flippant comment. I actually mean that you don't just take your thing, your manuscript, your article, whatever you have created, your collection of poetry, and put it out there and just keep putting it out there and putting it out there. And eventually, if you just keep on knocking on enough doors, someone will take it. Although that may be the case. But what I really want to talk about is that space between the initial starting to submit and the eventual success that I have seen time and again for my own writers as well as other writers out there. In fact, a message came through today in my Facebook feed from somebody who had this experience. She'd had a series. The initial book was picked up and it was meant to be a 4-book series. And then that first book didn't sell as well as the publisher had thought it was going to, so they axed the rest of the project. And 3 years later, out of the blue, she got another contract from another big publisher who totally rebranded and repositioned, and in fact, upped the series from 4 books to 8. And she's had contest wins and accolades galore for this series now, and so much fun writing it. But if she hadn't persisted, this may never have happened. But I want you to see that persistence in this case, and in some of my most successful authors, doesn't look like I wrote the thing and now there it is and I'm just going to keep knocking on doors. Something else is happening between the initial submission and the eventual success. And those things look like, first, persistence, keep knocking on doors, keeping that flame of belief alive, and also growing self, growing your voice, growing into different forms of creativity, not looking at that one project as the be all and end all. By the way, if you are looking for traditional publishing, traditional publishers want to know that you have more than just the one project, just more than just the one manuscript for them. Ideally within the same readership, but even if not, show that you have more to offer. Because I hope you do. I hope once you've created one beautiful thing, you want to create another beautiful thing. So after you've created your one beautiful thing and you're sharing it with the world, think about what else can you start creating, because that helps you grow. And in fact, sometimes that will help you go back and tweak that initial beautiful thing. This is an example that I sometimes use. Kathryn Stockett, the writer of that beautiful book and then movie, The Help, didn't just write the book and then everybody was scrambling, they all wanted it. No, she went through months and years of sending it out, submitting it, and getting feedback on the manuscript. Some of it would have been really tough feedback, and in fact, was not the right feedback for her. But the feedback that she took on, that coming through that personal filter, which I've hopefully shared with you before. And if not, go back and look at other videos that I have here on YouTube. You take it through your personal filter, and then she applied what felt right to make that manuscript better. Over those months and years that she was submitting, she was growing personally inside, and that helped her to actually create a better manuscript than the first manuscript she submitted. So growth is something that we're looking at. The other thing that is related to growth is upskilling. We don't just write a beautiful manuscript and say, hey, I've reached the end and I'm awesome now. Continue to upskill. Stretch yourself, right? Whether you are upskilling in different areas like visual art, or instead of writing, you are knitting, or you're doing crochet, or instead of writing long form, you're moving over to poetry and stretching yourself in a place that feels very uncomfortable. Or maybe you go to the other side of the brain. I'm not sure which way you're looking at this, but writing, that sort of creative flow, the initial process is very, very right-brained. So maybe you want to upskill and go take a course, a short course or an online course on editing, because, hey, then you can sometimes do your own editing, but get really skilled at how to properly edit your own work. Or even if you're not going to edit your own work, if you're in a beautiful critique group, you can offer your skill set to somebody else who's doing the same for you. And you're coming at it from this other place, right? So every time we upskill, whether we're, or maybe even just taking a workshop on how to create more full-bodied, more three-dimensional characters, right? Or more emotionally authentic characters, or how to do world building, even if you've only ever done realism or realistic based novels. Maybe you'd like to stretch yourself a little bit and look at what would it be like to create a new world, even if it's not total sci-fi fantasy. What skills can you build in this time between persisting, persevering with your writerly craft and finding success? It's not a stasis. It's not, I'm just going to throw that one thing out there and never shift it, never grow it, never change it. You are growing. You are changing. You are upskilling. So one of my favorite clients, you're all my favorites, but one of my favorite personal writers, when we were on this process of submitting her YA novel, she didn't just sit. That was my job, was to go out and shop it around. And in that space, she ended up creating a musical with a beautiful composer based on that YA novel. And in fact, it's possibly what eventually led to the successful acquisition of that particular manuscript and then multi-book deal, right? She didn't just sit there. She let it grow into something new. And in fact, that helped us succeed in the sale of that initial beautiful manuscript, even though she hadn't edited it afterward. Do you get what I'm saying? So when you hear me say something that I hope it doesn't come off as flippant, because it certainly is not, but when I say, I believe in you, I believe in your story, it doesn't mean that I don't want you growing, upskilling, continuing your belief. And by the way, having some fun while you're doing it. I want you to have fun. Stretch yourself. See what feels a little bit uncomfortable and then follow that path if it sparks some curiosity and joy in you. Okay, that's it for my Writerly Wednesday, maybe a little bit longer than usual, but I hope you can tell I'm really passionate about this. I do believe in you. I do believe that you have a story to tell and that it's time to tell it. So what can you be doing this week, next week, this month, for the rest of this year that will be helping you to grow not only your skill, but your self-belief? What are you going to do to help grow that will help you persevere and persist? What is it? I'd love to see it in the comments. Until next week, I'll see you. Bye.